Hello, we are live on the news. You may notice that I do not have Abby next to me, but I'm very happy to have my dad, the president of Christian Leaders. So welcome to the news today, Dad.
Thank you very much, Abby. I've really been enjoying the news that you and Abby have shared over the last months, and I was glad to finally get invited to be on with you today.
Well, Abby was camping. So
Yeah, that's good. No, I really enjoy everything, and I have just seen in the communications and everything, the response of our students and alumni and network members and the special op ministers that you are helping mobilize is pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, again, welcome as you're coming in. We still have a couple minutes. Dad, why don't you open us in prayer?
Sure, let's do so. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to meet, to share, and to converse. And Lord, we ask that you will bless this time together and bless all of our students, our graduates, our alumni, our ministers who are out there, boots on the ground, sharing the gospel in word and deed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Awesome. Yeah, and I want to start with saying we're really grateful. I don't know if any of you watching are in Florida or any of the places affected by Hurricane Ian, but we are grateful to report that, Florence and our Christian Leader College headquarters, everything is well. I mean, they were hit, but again, the Lord had protection. And so we just continue praying for anybody whose families were affected by that.
Oh, yeah. We have so many students and graduates and ministers in the affected areas, even now in South Carolina. Our prayers are with you. This is devastating for you. And it is a reminder that we are so frail. And it's a reminder that if not God, where could we go? And it's devastating. And I mean, personally, we are not inconvenienced in our office in Florida.
Right, so in your own condo.
In our own condo. We're in 2-3 weeks. We're heading back to Florida. So we're going to be starting our ministry in our Florida operation, leaving you here.
Leaving me alone. No,
I
have a great team here, but we'll miss you guys.
Oh, I know. Technology is so amazing because we can just zoom back and forth. It's pretty fun. So, I remember when I started ministry, I couldn't even imagine that you could have this kind of a world where you could be location here, there, all of that. So fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week, I want to share about one of our graduates, and this is really cool, and you can find this always on our network. So keep checking the Christian Leaders College to see our graduates and who we have there. And I'm actually going to show you guys right here because I failed to connect my computer to the screen.
Oh, can we do that?
But I did just ask for support to get
actually
myself
officially
connected.
not started yet here. Can you?
Connect us. And then I will share this story.
We don't really have to have our act together until exactly noon. I think we're still.
Oh, you're right. We still are a little early.
This is all part of the not noon piece.
Right.
This is
those of you that show up before noon.
Put that right in there.
Thanks.
And we put this over here, and we've got all of these things are all part of
the not noon.
Yeah, this is the not noon thing. We have
awesome.
We have exactly 1 minute to get our act together. Did you have a picture of our office in Florida at all there? Or?
I do not,
okay.
But I know that it was checked by Florence that all is well over there. So that's good.
Yeah. So and I'm glad we're going to be going back there soon. So many are now. It's exactly noon. So really, we can now officially start our presentation. Right. By the way, for you who are just coming. Henry with Abby invited me to join her today on the news. So we welcome you.
Welcome. I want to start with sharing this testimony, and now we're connected.
Now you're connected.
Yeah, we're connected. So you can flip over to that. Okay. And again, I want to encourage you guys to keep always checking out the network and being involved there. So I'm gonna,
Oh, here you are. Okay.
yeah, so here we are. So look at
There's
this
us.
beautiful graduate. I love that she decorated her cap and got in her
That is
graduation.
really awesome.
Yeah, I love her nails too. But anyway, she looks amazing, and I'm congratulating her. And I actually had the privilege of reading her testimony for the graduation, and it was really powerful. Now, this is kind of the shortened version of it here, but just kind of wanted to share this with you guys. My name is Hirena, affectionately known as Rain, and it has been my absolute honor to attend Christian Leaders College. For years, I tried to do school, but something always got in the way, and I'd have to stop. I've been in ministry since I was 14 actively and been sharing the gospel the entire time. When my marriage unexpectedly ended, I was devastated. I knew that I had to uphold the ministry, and I felt a call and pull to go back to school. At 46, that seemed completely overwhelming. I knew I did not have the resources or even the time to do the full 4 years. My mentor friend shared his journey in the college and recommended I check it out. I'm so glad that I did. I have to admit that when I started, I assumed I knew all this after being in ministry and had taken many classes. Boy, was I wrong. I've never been so inspired, checked, sharpened, challenged. I realized that all that we have been doing has barely scratched the surface. I found a passion for chaplaincy through CLI, and I plan to finish that and the Christian leadership degree as well. Wow, is she going to do all 3 degrees?
Yeah,
Good for
I know.
her.
I mean, I'm so impressed. I actually
Just 2 more classes to go. Not only did God ordain my time here, he completely paid for it. Out of nowhere, as I was almost done, I prayed for the money, and along came someone who felt called to pay for it.
Wow.
Never say that you can't do it. Never say that you already know this stuff. Never assume there's nothing left to learn. No matter how hard it gets to finish, stay with it. I want my divinity degree to back up and support my experiences. More doors are open to me because of it. My goal is my doctorate. It requires many long hours and nights, but it's well worth it. Now that I'm done, I plan to finish the other 2 bachelors. So there you go. As soon as she can pay, and I plan to take our ministry to the next level by having my team members enroll. Awesome. Referring and sharing CLI. I plan to continue in ministry leadership and continue with OCU for the master's and Liberty University for the doctorate. I may also look into some chaplaincy certificate and do chaplaincy work while I continue school. It's never too late. You're never too old to live your dreams. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
Now, what I like about that is
Love
a
it.
lot of things.
Yeah.
We have like an underdog. And this is somebody who, unexpectedly, the marriage comes to a halt. And many of you exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. That
We have
whatever
another-
that thing was that caused
someone
you to
who
feel like
wanted,
you
who had
robot.
a wanting for this and
Mhm.
calling into ministry. I
Yeah.
see that there.
Yep.
I see somebody looking for options. And what we noticed there too is this is a person that needed the weak link versus the strong link strategy.
Right. That it wasn't realistic for her to do the big 4 years in a classroom and
And I'm going to talk about that
work
later.
and
Yeah.
life.
So,
Yes,
okay, so I
exactly.
see the strong weak link strategy needed.
Yeah.
I also see someone who's responded well to independent study, someone who
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
who needs to study
She's
on her own
absolutely
time.
Yeah.
All of that. It's someone who's actually willing to think outside the box of where
Mhm.
education is going. I see that. I also see somebody who can complete something here. I mean, it takes a lot of long hours to be doing all that. And she did.
Right. And I see somebody who has humbly had a learning attitude. I mean, she's
Yeah.
like, I've been in ministry for a while. I didn't expect to learn as much as I did. And I think, yeah, no matter how much experience we have, there is that space where you can learn and grow. And there's a lot, again, even for me in the courses where it's like, wow, and there's so many more I want to keep taking. So even plugging into mini courses, any little area, just keep digging in and moving forward. So
And what I also see is the incredible opportunity with our partnerships.
yeah,
I see
yeah,
Liberty mentioned
100%.
there. I see Ohio Christian University. How's your Ohio Christian
Good.
University?
I'm in my
Masters?
last week of preaching, and actually, I appreciate everyone on the network who responded about my Habakkuk sermon and what I was preaching on. Some of your comments were really formative in helping me just kind of, some thoughts I had already had, but just bring
So
clarity.
you're you're just engaging students and
Well, it was
ministers
great
and-
to hear
yeah, it's
their
like, what advantage you have? I mean, it's
perspective.
like you have that, and I guess on the network, many can utilize that advantage by getting to know other people.
Yes,
and
yeah.
those who are
share your
master
journeys.
programs
Even if you
can-
continue on and aren't studying at Christian Leaders, you're a part of this community as alumni. So keep reaching out and communicating with us. But yeah, I really appreciate people's responses on that. So I'm actually going to be finishing preaching this week and then going into managerial management and finance things. So yeah, sounds a little little bit more on the business side of my degree. So
Right.
excited.
Well, awesome. This is the young or a woman. I call her young because I'm 61. 46, you are young. So, but here's someone who is from a weakling strategy going into a stronger and stronger linked education, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I just wanted to highlight that point one more time.
We want to also share, just again, we've talked about this here and there, but we want to share again and get this on your radar screen, that we have the Michigan Prison launch that's been hopeful that it could happen in October. Now, we're not totally sure, but we've gotten our spot where we're ready for it. And again, we are thankful to the hard work of the team on this. Jordan, Abby, a lot of people have put a lot of time into this prison system and how it looks different. And so we're excited. So we just want to ask you guys to keep praying about this, especially if the launch does take place at some point this month. But also we've had some incredible individuals come in and be working on a course. They were actually here all day yesterday recording a course on transformative living. So there's, again, some really awesome things that God is doing in this.
You know, Abby, a couple of observations about this. First of all, this is hard. I mean, I look at the 4 years that we have been working on this, and to somehow open up the doors for education to those incarcerated.
Yeah.
And I really feel like this is still such a seed, and it's a fragile seed because there is major spiritual warfare against this. And and I'll give an example of that. Do you know that we have no funder for this, really? Over all these years,
something that we're so passionate about.
We know the Lord wants us to do this, but no major donors have stepped forward. You keep on going, and we would talk. Remember we had the Ignite Restoration program, and we were thinking ignite it, and thinking that funding would even start this, and instead it's really been the Vision Partner students.
Yeah, you
guys. I mean, literally, if you hadn't stepped forward and become Vision Partners in this, there would not be a program at all. And the potential to do a program in Michigan, we're right now contacting in Illinois.
Right, we want to take this and keep going.
Oh, I know, and we think it could go throughout the entire states. So I'm just amazed it's here, and it's only here because the Lord's blessing and
your support.
Yeah, you actually believed by giving the CLI something good was going to happen out of it.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
So thank you guys, and we'll keep updating you. But yeah, as you said, this is it's a huge moment for us. I'd call it even revolutionary when this moment can happen. But we just keep putting in God's hands.
I want to mention one more thing that comes to my mind. Because you supported, we have not made unhelpful alliances with other ministries that gave like the illusion to us that they wanted to be all part of it, and they weren't really part of it. They had other means and purposes, but because we're independent in making decisions, it's been appreciated at the Michigan Department of Corrections that we chose.
Right, we have a flexibility with them
work with them,
what they want.
So in some ways, we see the providence of God that the Vision Partners of students and graduates and alumni raise the buoys on this.
Right. Yes, your love for this mission has really moved this forward 100%.
Anyway.
So we'll keep you guys updated, but just wanted to share about that. Want to share a little bit more, since I have my dad with me here, about the new Alliance program structure. Now, Abby and I talked about it a little bit last week, but I wanted to give you kind of the opportunity, Mr. President, to share a little bit more about your vision on some of these Alliance structure changes. And again, we have both the old and the new because we want to help you guys work through it who are still in maybe the old program. So again, if you're close to earning something, just keep moving forward. But for those of you that are just starting to explore the Alliance, the new program we're really excited about.
So why do we do this? I mean, that's the question. And probably let's go first of all back to 2014. When we started all this, we were finding a way to train people, grassroots, called leaders, breaking down the clergy laity distinction, and trying to see how can so many more roles be clergy credentialed, trained, and all of those things. So at first, the first thought was, okay, there's, the minister of the word. Like I went to Dordt College, Calvin Seminary. I went 8 years in this full program before I could even do one wedding.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. So that's a strong linked pro thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's like really a lot of education. So then when our first offerings of ordination copied basically the existing programs that are out there.
Right.
And then we added a few twists. We added like the chaplain, but again, these are heavy programs, or assistant minister. So or commissioned minister in my denomination of the past, before Christian Leaders Alliance. What they had was a commissioned minister. So we just looked at their requirements. But again, there was a lot of requirements, lots of college classes. And that was sort of like the general list that was sort of accepted in the world of church 2014. But as we were doing this, we saw how the Holy Spirit was opening the doors to a lot of roles. So after all these years, we've come up basically with these 5 roles that we feel and we see that God is blessing. We see, first of all, the weighing efficient. Many people just put their toe in the water.
Right.
And see if this is something that you're called to do. Maybe if someone asked you, a niece asked you to do a wedding, or a cousin or whatever, and now here's a training, but a credentialing program that's just right for you. So instead of you becoming a minister merely on the terms of really church structure in itself as been passed down for 2,000 years, let's go to the early church structure where people were mobilized and boots on the ground as ministers sooner. Okay, so we started seeing that was, and then we started seeing, so there's efficient, and then there's a commended minister, who, and that whole concept of lay minister. You're in a local church and you don't have a lot of time to prepare, and they used to call that lay ministry. But again, we don't agree with the strong distinction between lay and clergy.
Right.
Why aren't they a part of the clergy? So we have a program that has less training, but very appropriate if you're under the leadership of an existing ministry. But we're also in this new program throwing wedding officiant in there. So if you're a commended minister, you'll also will be a wedding officiant on top. So you actually have 2 recognitions that stand out. Well, if you're a commended minister, maybe you want to become a licensed minister, which has more study, more preparation. And that would be, let's say you are thinking of a volunteer position or maybe a part-time position. Well, the licensed minister is perfect. If you're in a church and you can do a wedding, you'll also be an officiant, ministry officiant, visitation, and all of that. Well, what happens if you go, I want to go further, and maybe there's part-time, more part-time, maybe full-time. Well, here comes the ordained thing. Exactly. Well, but what if you really feel the sense of being a life coach or a coach? So how about, instead of just being a life coach, what about life coach minister? And one advantage of that is that a life coach minister is a minister. So someone comes in for life coaching, and one of the first things is to ask them, do you want to welcome God, the God of the Bible, into this coaching relationship? Now in coaching, you always let them
Right,
It's
lead,
their
exactly.
consent to what they're planning. So you say, do you consent to invite God into this? In fact, that truth goes on all of the programs, efficient, minister, commended,
licensed.
all that is a
Yes.
welcoming of God. And this is, by the way, one of the most incredible things that we ministers have. We welcome God. Therapists, they're out there doing all their therapy, and it's not like they're going to say, no, let's invite God in this. Now, some Christian therapists may do that, but in general, they're trained. God's not involved in this. This is social science. But we say God is involved in this.
Right.
And the God of the Bible has a lot to say about joy, the fruits of the Spirit. If people live the fruits of the Spirit, they wouldn't even need counseling. I mean, just think about all of these things that there is no secret what God can do.
Right.
So that's all part. Now, having those core roles, which are in the panel. Mm-hmm. So you didn't realize that I'd take longer to explain this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
So if you have these core roles, now how about some specializations?
Well, I think what we identified is that we had for each of the roles, we had commended specializations, we had licensed specializations, we had ordination specializations, and many of them overlapped in, pretty significant way. And so what we kind of realized is that each of the levels, be it you become a commended and then move to license, or you become licensed and move to ordination, that specialization comes with you wherever you do. So if you specialize in prayer and you're commended, then you can have that specialization as a commended minister. But if you then get ordained later, then you still have that specialization in prayer. And so it kind of creates this specialization that moves along with you as you journey, and again is applicable all throughout rather than having to earn one separate for the commended.
I love that. We have like some officiants who love the specializations in the marriage area.
Right.
They're doing wedding officiants, but they want to have specialization of marriage, sex in conversations, all of those things, because they deal with couples who that's something interesting to them. But so they're really an officiant who has specializations in marriage and sex education and conversations, but that's a specialization that comes with it. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited because what it is, and there'll be more. I'm working now on a specialization in life advocacy. So I had a long conversation yesterday with leaders in Northern Florida, Tallahassee. It's not Northern Florida. It's the capital of Tallahassee that are into the pregnancy crisis, pregnancy centers, and everything related to all of that. Well, there will be a specialization in those areas because really what we're talking about is boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground, 100%. I want to share this with you guys. We've been keeping the weekly operational budget to be able to be shared with you students. And what you can see here is from September 22nd to 29, we had 19,000 come in. And now this includes when you buy a life coach certificate, when you are paying for your degree program, or if you're a vision partner or supporting or buy merchandise. So all of that's factored in this number. And so in this past week, Vision Partners have funded 62% of Christian Leaders' total weekly operational budget. Now, I want to ask you, why should operations be completely funded by the students?
Okay.
I know you love this question, and so I want you to be able to share that with them today.
Okay. So first of all, I want to go back to that prison thing, okay? Mm-hmm. Because that was not funded by major donors and gifts. What that did, it allowed us to continue just relentlessly dealing with the problems associated to launching the program.
Right.
When you do something for grants and that, which are fine, and we love it. Okay, so major donors out there, kudos to you because you keep this place going. But it allowed us to just really continue to do that because we could actually complete it. Okay, that's one thing. Secondly, is this concept of free education going to make it? I mean, I think that's this is and we're going to talk soon about a weak link strategy and a strong link strategy, but before I even talk about it, but just put this in the back of your mind, is a weak linked strategy going to make it? Meaning a grassroots strategy where everyone
gets an opportunity to study.
Mhm.
That is people who have that story that you read about that graduate.
Mhm.
You know, people who have just gone through a bankruptcy, people who are new to Jesus Christ, but their old lifestyle has canceled all of their money. People who just can't go in debt to go to some college. People who didn't do well in school, but they know in their heart they're called. And here they come in and they start studying, and amazingly, they do very well. I mean,
Yeah.
they're surprised. Well, they're not going to get in the colleges because their transcripts from high school won't let them in.
Right.
No matter
You
what.
create a path to our college that
Yes.
you can do studies with us to establish your college readiness. So even as we go through accreditation and jump those hoops, we're still creating that path so that everybody can have that opportunity.
And if it's supported by students, now our president's office, when we are talking to major donors, major donors love it when students fund the operations. Now, let's say we want to launch into Arabic. I want to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And we have actually boots on the ground people who will do an Arabic ministry. Okay. That's where I want to put and see that money go. Or we want to,
Right.
what happens if we can expand to, 20 languages?
Right.
And this strategy goes on. But the first piece is that we must take care of operations. And if operations are, then all of the extra, and here's something too about major donors. Some major donors are taken to heaven. Rich DeVos, who supported us for years and years in the beginning, he passed away in 2018. No, he gave 5 years of support. Well, this year that 5 years is up. Okay, so now there's a major donor, and Marty Ozinga was a major donor. He was right in the beginning, and he died last year. Now we're talking to the kids and all of that, and they're very supportive. But we have no assurances of anything, and that's the issue with major donors. We ask and all of that, but in the end, we know that if students and graduates and alumni own this, like they own their local church, we can give the African who has nothing but a smartphone an opportunity. Somebody in Asia, somebody in Europe. There's so many migrating people. We have migration camps in Turkey where people from Iran escaped, and now they're studying and they're being ministers to other refugees who used to be Muslim. I mean, you can get me to start talking, and if we really talk about it, in our mind right now, we can think of and see there's no way someone could get this education if it weren't tuition free. And I would imagine many of you would say, there's no way you could do it. And some people are like, if it's free, it's not real. And then they find out it is real. But the bottom line is it's a free opportunity.
Right. And it's free from your generosity.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And it's just amazing that, again, God has, brought so many of you to share that vision. And when we took the student survey and, all of you are saying, we're supporting for the vision and the free courses, and you guys are making that happen. And so again, thank you to our vision partners.
It's not as I used to think it's free courses. What a great deal. But I've come more to think it's the mobilization of boots on the ground, anywhere and everywhere, grassroots, they're everywhere.
Right. Indigenous
Called
leaders.
leaders are everywhere. And then it's like, okay, give them what they need, credential them in the appropriate credential, and let's go. Special ops, ministers, all these specializations, crazy. I just love it. I can't,
Yeah. So
stop talking about
So we do want to ask you today, will you join as a multiplier of free education? And many of you already are doing that, but maybe that looks like a small one-time gift, but we're going to have a link below that I'll attach when I post this news. And also you can find on any of our websites the donate and give to Christian leaders. But again, you guys, as this little image shows, you're launching this free biblical education around the globe. But again, it's not free. It is given by the generosity of those you supporting.
I want to talk really just about this a moment too, Abby.
Mhm.
And that's this concept of weak link and the strong link. And so Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Why I Hate the Ivy League or something like that. And I listening to it, and in this, he talks about how there's a strong link and a weak link strategy. And a strong link is like basketball. You need 5 players who are amazing and they dribble the ball and they dunk the ball, and
Right.
if you're going to win. And then there's soccer, and it's weak link, like 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11th player are important because you may have a star player 1 and 2, but you got to pass the ball, and it's all in this together. And it's more about everybody needs to be competent. I think firemen are like that. You've got firemen are called to put out fires, but they're the professionals who are really good at it. The ones who are trained to go in and get that child and pull them out, and but all the volunteers are there. But it's interesting, if you're going to go into a burning house or a building, you got to have minimal training that everybody, and it's important. The quote weak link is as trained
Right.
in appropriate things as the strong stars who are in there, who are directing the whole affair. Okay, now, so the education of firefighting in the United States and most places in the world is a weak link strategy that develops strong linked leaders. So, so Malcolm Gladwell says that American education has gone down the strong linked way, where you have, I went 8 years to college and seminary before I could even do one wedding. Okay, before I could turn the hose on to put the fire out. It's like, do I just put the hose on to marry someone, and then that's it? That's it. I had to go. Where Christianity in the early church was a weak link to strong link strategy. So Jesus starts it out that way. He mobilized 12 disciples, fishermen, tax collectors. He's got this whole group of people. But then as time goes on in the book of Acts, we get a strong link guy, the Apostle Paul, studied under Gamaliel.
Right.
And so what does he do? Now, but his whole strategy is a weak link strategy.
Right.
And they
Raising up
have
all
like,
kinds of leaders.
and they do. And you then, as the history of the church, it drifted to a strong link strategy. For instance, in the first 300 years, male and female, married or single, could be ministers. Like we know Phoebe. I commend you, Phoebe, a minister. Females, and there were other married women who were ministers. But by the 3rd century, only virgin or celibate women could be ministers. Okay, so now notice the now married women are out.
Right.
So then by the 6th century, women couldn't be ordained at all. And that's according to Dr. Carolyn Osick, who is in our class on women. So we know by this PhD Catholic nun in the history, that's how it happened. So now it's married men and single men could be ministers. But by the 12th century, only virgin or celibate men could be ministers.
Right.
Then the Reformation came, and then it was like, well, married men could be ministers again too, but only professionals. But then the clergy was very well established, and the laity were very well established, and there really wasn't the minister for, the volunteer or the part-time was not really a thing. And then the roles became really strong.
Well, and I think what it just creates in people is this kind of feeling of like, well, like for me, for example, like for a long time, the only thing I could really do is just attend a service. And again, that's it. That's an important thing to be doing. We need to keep gathering together as the body of believers. But, it's empowering to realize, even if I'm just called to serve and help the widows in my community, like I can be raised up to do that and
Can be trained.
Right. Or I want to advocate for life. That's all I want to do. But, I want to be able to do that in the context of my local area, my local church, and be an Indigenous leader. And so, again, I love that. I love when you share.
Think that through. Like, we have large churches and we need them. We have senior ministers with great training. I go to an amazing church with Kurt Parker in Florida, and he's actually been in our network, and he's shared, and he is on board. Okay, so here's a strong link guy in a strong link position, but some of his programs are mobilizing wedding officiants. So there's this powerful wedding officiant ministry where you have, in a sense, weak linked ministry. So now you have a combination. So I'm not saying like forget the strong linked.
Right. They're important too.
Very important. I mean, I'm a strong link guy. I mean, you're studying to get a master's degree in ministry MBA. And you know what? You're studying to go into a strong link position, Lord willing, someday the presidency of Christian leaders. So,
Right.
you know, and that's where our board is thinking about, Abby. No, that's a strong link. So she starts at Christian Leaders College, a weak link college.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds, when you say it like that, weak link, we're a weak college. We're not weak link. We're a grassroots college. So she starts at the grassroots college.
Mhm.
Then she goes to Ohio Christian University. Is it free over there or is there tuition?
No, not free. And many of you have continued with me into our partner schools and know that for that master's, it's not free.
It's not free. Okay. It's not free. Now, the whole accreditation system, you know, we're in this whole accreditation thing. They're not accrediting grassroots colleges, correspondence at all. They want it. So their whole strong link program is about who gets title funding to go in debt and all this other stuff, which is another reason why let us have this program in this world. It's got to be a weak link strategy supported by Vision Partners. So then you went on there. Now, if you go on to a PhD, is that going to be free?
No.
Now, again, I am not criticizing a strong link strategy, but what does the world need? The world needs 1 million life advocate ministers, 1 million wedding officiants. We need millions of, in the early church, they even had a minister who buried martyrs.
Right.
They had widows who were ministers. They had various things. So all of these things, you're probably looking at me, okay, Dad, it's time for you to call.
I'm looking at the comments. I love seeing what people are saying, but yes.
Okay, well, what are people saying? Can you want to go over there?
Yeah.
And look, you got here. I'll move to this chair.
You took
And then
my
you-
spot. See,
yeah,
normally
okay.
when I do with Abby, I sit on this side so I can see in the
Oh,
comments.
so, but the point I'm making while she's looking at the comments is we have an opportunity.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity to mobilize millions of boots on the ground, grassroots leaders, officials. I love this concept of like, will you welcome God into this relationship with the God of the Bible into this relationship? So what are you seeing over there?
So, well, I appreciate some of you guys' comments here. Thank you, Florence, for sharing the donate link in there. But LaShawl says, it's very real, a real blessing for me to be able to be a part of it. As Vision Partner, it is my pleasure to be able to support CL. So thank you so much for your support. Felicia says, I love donating to CLI. It's been an amazing journey for me. I'm ordained in several areas.
Wow.
Awesome. Woohoo. And Josh says, I'm sure you're very excited about accreditation as well. I would eventually like to work with Christian leaders and stay in studies forever. You've changed my life. And, you know, again, I read these because I feel the same way. Christian Leaders has changed my life as I went through the studies. It's like, again, I grew up as a pastor's kid, as you all know.
Yeah.
And, I was in the Word a lot, and that was formative for me as a young child. But taking that step to just really pursue that calling that God put in my life, it does change your life. So I definitely echo a lot of these comments as both a Vision Partner and an alumni of Christian Leaders. So thank you guys for being a part of this. And I agree, boots on the ground. One of you just commented again. So.
Well, and just imagine going back to the early church mentality. And I think we're going to that. I do think we're doing that anywhere. I think like Christianity is going to be more like the Roman Empire. And you think about the life advocacy ministers. So in early Christianity, the Roman culture believed in infanticide. So especially girl babies. And Dr. Fettis talks about this in his church history class, or history of Christianity class. And so there'd be like these special opt ministers who would go take these female girl babies as they were like abandoned.
Right.
And they were abandoned, they say, to the wolves or slave traders, but the reality, they were abandoned mostly to the slave traders. There weren't wolves waiting. There were slave traders waiting to take these girls, raise them to be sex slaves, or really slaves, sex slaves, prostitutes. But here comes the Christians,
Right.
and they would be there to strike.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground, take these babies. And then Dr. Fettis talks about out of this comes this big population of women who were saved from death, and then they marry Romans and everything, and through them Christianity comes.
Continues to
You
spread.
know,
and
it's like
weakling
boom, a
strategies.
weakling
Yeah.
strategy of saving the weak.
Right.
That, and all of a sudden Christianity is spreading
Well, look,
everywhere.
God uses the weak to shame the strong things of the world, and we see that in Scripture. And Florence, I know you love the boots on the ground of what the volunteers are doing, and they're serving their local community as volunteers, and so I love that. And another one of thing, and this is one of the things I'll last say is one of my biggest fears growing up as a kid was sickness. Okay, just always scared of it, hated, especially the idea of puking. Germaphobe. I don't know what to say about myself, but I was very scared about that. And I remember when I was in that course, the one you're talking about, where he was talking about Christianity, the Christians were the ones that cared for the sick, that nobody wanted to touch, the lepers, the untouchables. And it was like, I had to sit there and go, wow, I'm just being such a prima donna, a germaphobe. Like, I'll lose my life just serving for the Lord. And that's what Christians did. And that is why Christianity is everywhere, because people that are saved by God and have the love of Jesus in their heart, they are not afraid to do that, just like Jesus wasn't afraid to be with the sinners, be with the sick. And I see you guys doing that. And that is such an inspiration to us as the staff of Christian leaders, to see that you guys will touch the untouchable, and you guys will care for anybody that God, puts within your path. And that's just, again, a beautiful thing.
So, it's so true. We come into, we log in. I log in all times of the day and night, and so do you. And we see these stories and your stories, and
Yeah.
We have come to conclude that eye has not seen or ear has not heard what God intends for those who trust Him, and that is what we see. And people go like, "Well, Christianity is on the way down." I'm like the opposite. The boots on the ground are on the way up, and Christianity is on the way up. And because the hopelessness of life without God is everywhere nowadays, and the hungering soul for Jesus Christ, for who God is everywhere. And the conversations and it's going to be a time where you have to ask permission. We're going to be a very much consent-based Christianity more and more, where even when I grew up, you could just on TV unannounced as a Billy Graham crusade, and people just tune in. There he is. Well, we're going to an area where the pagans or the people who don't believe in God are going to have offense if you mention God, but simultaneously their life is going to go to an unhappy place. And then they're going to look at you, and then say, "Hey, would you like to hear how the God of the Bible sees marriage, how the God of the Bible sees this, how I've come to know." And hey, Andrew, what's the deal with you? Or hey, Sue, or hey, John, what's the deal? I'm a minister now. No, minister, what? Hey, we were partying like party animals. Hey, you're a minister now? Yeah. Okay. And I've got training and all that. You did? Yeah. And and would you welcome to hear the message of the gospel?
Well, and Ingrid has said I'm an anti-human trafficking and anti-abortion crusader. So, that's again just
there you go, Ingrid. You're going to be one of these life advocacy women. Abby, I just want to say, this is a special time to be alive, and I hope the Lord gives me so many years and to be part of this. But something, I'm not worried. The Apostle Paul, he wrote, I finished the race, I've completed, the race, I've kept the faith, and even how Christianity became generations and generations of leaders and boots on the ground. And that's what this movement is about. It's not one person. It's not Billy Graham, who now we're watching his YouTube videos and wishing he was still here. No, it's 1,000, it's 1 million, it's tens of millions of ministers with a message. And that's really what this movement is all about. This is, to me, this is that early church Reformation revival.
Yeah.
And it's as exciting as ever.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. Love these comments. Love being with you guys. And yeah, we're unapologetic for Jesus. That's right. Thank you guys for tuning in. And thanks, Ed, for being with me today.
Thanks for letting me on.
God bless you all. And we will see you next week on the news.